key things when you're doing crystal reports is to get the linking right. If I go to links on this, you'll see that right now those two data files that I selected are not linked together. So it has no way of having the correspondence between the two files. Okay, so you have to do that, otherwise it doesn't know how to connect the fields. So what I'm going to do is left click and drag over and create a link between the invoice history detail and the invoice history header. And this is pretty critical right here, that I'm going to make it the join type is how it knows how those files are linked. In other words, if I do a left outer, I'm saying that that is a many-to-one relationship. Okay, so what that really means is in invoice history detail, I can have many records, in other words, many lines on that invoice that correspond to one invoice number. Okay, because I'm only going to have one invoice. I'm not that has multiple detail lines to it. So that's an important thing to do. And you can actually, add more tables and do different links in there if you wish. But I'm going to stick with that for the moment. And it's going to ask a refresh because I just joined those two tables together. Now what I want to do is kind of talk a little bit about some of the buttons across the top. There is the save button. There's the open. If you have other crystal reports, sometimes you may want to open a different crystal report, and then you can kind of spy between the reports, copy a formula, that type of thing. So you can actually have multiple. It would list another report 2 up here, report 3, if you had multiple reports open. Okay, the print buttons, fairly self-explanatory. HTML preview, I'll be honest, never use that. The export button is kind of an important one, because what that allows you to do is export to different programs. And the most common one that I use, if I write a crystal report and I want to push it to Excel, I would select the Excel button. I would say I want to launch the application. When I click OK, this would push the information from the report into Excel. So that's a pretty powerful button that we use on a pretty regular basis. The format painter is if you want to copy formats like fonts or colors or stuff like that between fields. You can basically click on one field, get the formatting, and then paste it onto another field. The undo button's one of my favorites because, frequently, particularly when you're trying to align fields, since it's kind of what WYSIWYG, I guess is what they used to call it, the ability to drag fields around. Sometimes you do something you really didn't want to happen, and it's nice to have that undo button as well as a forward button, okay? So you can move back and forth between changes that you're making. I guess there's a lot of other different buttons on here that I don't want to spend the time going over. You can see I hover over it kind of tells you what they are. The last critical one I want to talk about is this one right here, the refresh button. So frequently, if you make a bunch of changes within a report and you want to refresh against the database, you click that button right there, the refresh button. All right, so what I want to do is launch into writing a report here. So you can see that there's a section called report headers. The report header will print just at the very top of the report, not on every page. The page headers print on every report or every page. Details section is actually we're going to be doing our work, which is actually formatting the particular lines of the report. And then you also have a report footer and a page footer. Most of the time, I don't necessarily want a print date on the page header. I put it on a page footer. I'm just left click, and I can drag that print date down to the bottom. Okay, so what I want to do just to kind of summarize, is I'll write a quick little report looking at an invoice history, looking at the items and that have been sold over a particular date range, and count up the number of items of each item that's been sold during that time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the item detail file, okay, and I'm going to pull over, let me find it here. Okay. The item code. So I'm going to left click and drag that into the details section. Oops, I missed. Okay, see how that popped in? And it automatically brought the onto the page header the title or field name with that. Okay, so the next thing I want to grab is we've wanted to analyze how many have actually shipped. So I'm going to scroll down into here and find my quantity shipped field, which is right here, and I'm going to drag this over. And something else that I'm interested in, since we talked about, I wanted to know over what date range that a particular item, how many we sold under that date range. I care about the invoice date. So, but I know the invoice date, if you remember on the Sage tabs on invoice data entry, it's actually on the header tab, right? Which means it's going to be in the invoice header file, not in the detail file. So if I go here, you can see now I got the invoice date, so I can drag that over. Okay. And the last thing that I think that I'm going to be interested in is the quantity, basically the dollars, right? Maybe I'm interested in the dollars that were sold on that particular invoice. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go to the formulas. And if I double click on that, nothing happens because I don't have any. I'm going to hit the new button at the top, and I'm just going to call this dollars, anything. I guess I can't spell too well there, and now I can go over to here, and you'll see at the top here that I've got the report field. So I know that my total dollars is going to be a function of my quantity shipped. And then it's going to use kind of the basic math functions like the asterisk sign is times. Okay, but I don't have the unit price, right? I didn't put that on the report. I could have, if I would have put it on the detail line, that would be a field up here. Don't necessarily have to. I can click here and I can go to the detail lines and I can scroll down to unit price. Okay, so now I put the quantity shipped times the unit price. Always a good idea to check to make sure if you put an invalid statement in, you can check and it'd say, hey, you know, that statement's good. So I will save that. Now you see I've got dollars over here on the right-hand side. So now I can left click and put it onto on the detail line. So now if I click on preview, this is ABC demo data with your Sage. So again, you can see it's kind of got a future date out there, and there's not all that much data in there. But you'll notice, and this is really, really common, you'll see the pound signs in there. Okay. And when you get the pound signs, what that's basically saying is that I have not allocated enough space for the contents of that field. So if I go back here to click and I basically expand that dollars field, trying to get a hold of it here. There. Now, if I go back, you'll see that's that big number, that 283,500 is now available. So you can actually get that on standard. I've had some clients have that on actually standard Sage reports that we have to go in and expand the masking on it so that you can see the full number.